taking it home, your business, your organizations. Really looking forward to what Danny has to say. Let's give him for Danny.
Good evening. It really is an incredible honor to be here with you tonight. So many movers and shakers, leaders, doers. There's no place that we can make a greater impact than in our local community. That's why I'm so passionate about what I'm doing in Dixon for 21 years as a police officer, 10 of them as police chief, and now the last 7 as city manager. When I look at Byron, Byron is on the move. And it's on the move because of each and every one of you here tonight. This isn't possible without community. My wife Valerie and I come to Byron 3 to 4 times a month. This is where we come on our date night. We will be going to Harry Cow when we leave here tonight to get pizza, have a drink, and celebrate the time that we had with you. When I look at Byron, it's kind of like how I look at Dixon. We're in a rural area, high quality of life, low crime rate, close, tight-knit communities, but it has an urban feel to it. And when you think about Byron and all you have going on here, your downtown, your events, this amazing place, the restaurants, the businesses, I mean, you guys are thriving. You guys are really kicking butt. So give it up for yourselves for creating what you created here at Byron. We can talk about all the impressive things happening here. Your school district, your sports teams, and forest preserve, and business community, right? We can talk about the role Park District plays, the role your city plays. But what I'm most impressed with, and that I was preparing and getting to know Byron to a deeper level, and talking to friends that are here, is how this community is a family. And something person after person said to me is when there is a challenge or a tragedy, this community steps up like nobody has ever seen to rally for and to support emotionally, as friends, and financially. And that is something that is really, really special. So what if you could take that kind of community culture and you could put that across every organization in your community? What about if we could do that, create that kind of culture and that kind of work experience and that kind of family environment across all businesses across the country? The thing is that we can't. And tonight I'm going to talk to you about the X factor of winning cultures and championship teams. I'm going to talk about 5 key leadership mindsets, right? The way we think, why we lead directly translates to how we lead. And then I'm going to give you 2 actionable leadership strategies that I would love for you to put into play tomorrow or the beginning of next week in your organizations. And remember, leadership is not a title. Leadership is not a formal position. All of us have the capability to lead. As we start, I want you to think about and imagine what the things I'm about to say would look like within the workplace. I want you to think about the emotion that would drive within you. And I want you to think about the pride you would feel leading that organization, being part of the leadership team, being on the front lines of that organization. Imagine a journey where every step you take isn't just towards your personal success, but it empowers and inspires those around you. Picture a world where every individual harnesses the transformative power of leadership to change and ignite greatness not only in themselves, but in those around them. Imagine an organization that places service before self, empathy over judgment, sees challenge as opportunity, and has an unwavering commitment to excellence. Imagine a team of highly engaged team members that always puts the we before the me. Imagine an environment where everyone has your back, Imagine working for a company where the entire leadership team has a focus to help every team member reach their full potential. Imagine a culture where creativity and innovation are the expectation, not the exception. If you are picturing this, if you are visioning this, if you're feeling this, you are seeing a culture of leadership. You are seeing a culture that's primed to achieve and sustain excellence. It all begins with leadership. Individuals, organizations, and communities rise and fall with leadership. We cannot understate the importance of leadership, the importance of the top leader to set the tone for the organization, and the importance of our immediate supervisor in our day-to-day work experience, job satisfaction, and morale. We cannot understate that. When people ask me, why are you so passionate about leadership? Why are you so passionate about this, Danny? It's because I believe that leadership is the way that we create the greatest impact for the things that matter most to us, the things that drive meaning, passion, and purpose. Leadership is the ability to connect with, influence, motivate, inspire, empower, support, and unite people towards a common good purpose. And that's why I believe that leadership is our superpower. When I think about the things I'm passionate about, first and foremost, it is our team. It is the impact our leadership has on our team members day in and day out. When I think about through my career the things that leadership has helped me accomplish, the impact in crimes against children, especially in child sexual abuse cases, people suffering from addiction and mental illness, protecting our first responders from PTSD, right? Being able to help as part of a team begin to transform Dixon, to blow open the 88 corridor, all the infrastructure projects, getting us back to a place following the Cromwell embezzlement, to a place where we were thriving and stable and a community to be reckoned with. So I ask you now to reflect. Why do you lead? What is your purpose? What is the impact you're trying to create? Regardless if you're a coach of a sports team, regardless husband or wife, mom or dad, informal leader at your place of work or former leader at your place of work, you are leading each and every day. And what impact do you want to have? What legacy will you leave? In the 27 years I've been with Dixon, I've had the opportunity to be a sergeant, a patrol, detective sergeant, the police chief. I was the interim city administrator immediately after the Cromwell arrest for the $54 million embezzlement. We created a team to help professionalize every aspect of city government, to recover our money. I was so excited to go back to being a police officer. I got to serve on state task forces regarding Aaron's Law and child sexual abuse. Got to serve as vice president of the Illinois Chiefs. Now I serve as a city manager, and I'm an executive leadership coach. And from all those experiences, and working with all these strategic partners, I found that the X factor of winning cultures and championship teams, the X factor of what has created the community that Byron has become and will continue to become, is ownership. Ownership is the extreme emotional and psychological commitment to the purpose, the vision, the mission, and the goals of the organization. It's the extreme emotional and psychological commitment to our team members, to the customers that we serve, to the impact that we are trying to create. Let me ask you a question to bring this to life just a little bit more. Has anybody here ever rented a house or an apartment? Raise your hand if you've ever rented a house or an apartment. Okay. If you've rented a house or apartment, when you rented that house or apartment, I'm not talking about renting to own. Did you ever think about remodeling the kitchen? Did you ever think about doing an addition to the house? Did you ever think about finishing the basement or adding a deck? Anybody here ever think about those things? I had somebody raise their hand in one of the presentations I did, and I will tell you that I want to rent to you. Does everybody want to rent here? Because that's not what renters do, that's what owners do. And that's the power of ownership. Owners are fueled by purpose and driven by impact. They work to make themselves and their teams better, 1% better each and every day. They're constantly trying to add layers of greatness to their great organization, to their great community. Sounds like a lot of people in this room related to Byron. They see challenges, opportunity. They proactively solve problems at lower levels without direction to make sure it doesn't get to a higher level. That is the power of ownership. There are 3 types of team members in our organizations: owners, renters, and transients. Through the 7 pillars I'm going to talk about briefly on a high-level overview, we can intentionally and strategically create ownership, purpose-driven owners across all levels of our organization, across all levels of our community. It's okay to have renters, especially this young lady here, who take good care of things. But we've all had renters who don't take good care of things. When people are in the transient phase, that's when things get very, very dangerous. When I teach police, I talk about this person being the terrorist. All right? They're angry, they're disgruntled, there's low morale, they're not committed, they don't feel connected. There's potentially jealousy, envy, backstabbing, speaking with bad intentions. We all know somebody that fits in that role. Now, just because somebody's in a transient space doesn't mean they will always remain transient. The first question we have to ask ourselves as leaders, if somebody is in this phase or trending there, is this question: what part of the problem am I? What part of the problem are we? And once we've addressed that and worked to move them to renter into owner, that's a pretty amazing thing. We've seen it time and time again. But if we can't do that, we've got to move away from these people as soon as possible. And I'll bring that to life a little bit more in the story I'm about to tell you. So what are the 7 pillars of ownership? Pillar 1, psychological safety. This feeling that we will not be punished, shamed, humiliated, made fun of, retaliated against for sharing our ideas, for disagreeing, for asking for help, for admitting we made a mistake. When we have very high levels of psychological safety, study after study has shown that is one of the top drivers and indicators of high performance. As leaders, we set the tone for that. It is the foundation. Pillar 2, belonging. Anybody here ever feel like, as part of a group or an organization, you had to fit in? Anybody? Anybody ever feel like, hey, I've got to try to fit in here? The problem with fitting in is that is surviving. Belonging means you feel connected to the organization. You feel seen, heard, valued, cared for, accepted, supported, and appreciated. And when people feel like they belong, when they're connected, we're ready for pillar 3, and that's aligning purpose. As 21st century leaders, we have to lead the whole person. We can no longer silo things between work and home. What happens at home comes into the workplace. We want boundaries on it. What happens at work certainly leaves and affects people at home. The quality of husband or wife, or mom or dad, or friend. So when we get to know people on a personal level, we know their likes, their dislikes, their passions, their motivators, what drives meaning to them. And once we do, then we can align the purpose of our organization, the purpose of our community, to their purpose. And this is where all the magic happens. The next phase is confidence. Without confidence, we can only show up with a fraction of ourselves. And as leaders, we have such an impact on our people's confidence in the workplace, especially the way these workplaces are set up in a hierarchical structure. Pillar 5, empowerment. Right? Seeing more in people than they see in themselves. Giving people meaningful assignments, giving stretch assignments, giving the responsibility and authority to complete tasks. One of the things, and I didn't realize the impact of it at the time, when we made this transition in this pretty toxic culture about 7 years ago, and we promoted Matt Heckman to be our assistant city manager and our director of public works. And he was talking to me about this the other day as I was going through this presentation with him. And he said, I've told you this before, but I don't think you realize the impact it had. And what I said to him was, and I forgot that I'd said it, but it's my philosophy, it's how I live, is don't worry about making mistakes. The faster we fail, the faster we make a mistake, the faster we innovate. And the work that this man has done has transformed Dixon in so many different ways. As leaders, we gotta have our people's back. And when we do, Pillar 6, innovation comes to life. And people support what they create. And over time and consistency, we get commitment, and high levels of commitment turn to ownership. So let's talk about this when this doesn't go right. In the summer of 2017, 5 years after Rita was arrested, we had changed form of governments. We had hired a new city manager. Now we're the city manager form of government. Everything seemed good for the most part initially. We often say people can fool you for 3 months or 6 months or 9 months. They can't fool you for a year. And this service-based, empowering leader with transparent communication quickly became somebody who led with fear, power and control, micromanagement, no communication. I remember being ordered as a police chief that I could not send an email to the city council or a text that he was on updating about a real-time situation. Our department leaders were excluded from hiring process of their own people. It was a toxic, fractured, divided culture. I started looking for other jobs. It was a really tough situation because I love Dixon, I bleed purple. Right? I stepped into the mess of Rita Cornwell and helped us with a team, not just me, right? We can't do it ourselves. Created a team of people to lead us back. And next thing you know, all these department leaders who went through that time were on the outside looking in. It was us versus them. I hate to admit it, but we were angry, we were disgruntled, we were transient. I didn't realize how bad it was for everybody else until Josh McNitt, our wastewater superintendent now, called a meeting of the department heads. We met off-site. I decided to take a listen-first approach, and as I listened, I quickly found that I was the happiest person at the table. With encouragement from the department heads, with encouragement from several members of the council, I took off my badge, hung up my uniform, made the transition to City Hall. During that transition, there were 5 key leadership mindsets that I embraced. And as we built our new leadership team, we wanted alignment with these mindsets. Those mindsets were authenticity, authentic leadership, humility, curiosity, gratitude, and courage. Let's begin with authentic leadership. Why in the world, Dixon, sitting on an interstate, are we not doing stuff in that area? Why did we go 2 years without doing a single street or infrastructure project? Why were we not out researching some of our major expenses around health insurance and property liability work comp insurance? Right? So we shared this vision about what Dixon's potential was. We were clear with that vision, and we became committed to adding layers of greatness in the great community. We were clear on the values and principles we lead by. We were open, honest, direct, empathetic, and caring. Right? And we were able to show up as our true self. The thing about authentic leadership is it begins with empathy and respect. I believe empathy is the heartbeat of leadership. It is the great human connector. And think about empathy different in leadership than what you normally think about empathy as. I believe empathy is the ability to see through the eyes and feel through the heart of another human being. It is to anticipate and predict how different situations, decisions, and conversations, and what emotions it will drive in them. It is all about leading the whole person. So the first step is we've got to step up and come forward as our authentic self, provide clarity, and have alignment. The second is humility. I was the newest city manager in the country. The newest city manager in the country. I knew nothing about public works. I knew nothing about the building codes. I knew nothing about what's the difference between a resolution or an ordinance or a motion. We had the biggest budget, but I knew very little on the finance side about the revenues and the revenue streams and all the different things and complexities that are there. So I had to be confident and comfortable with saying, these are the things I don't know. See, here's the truth. Leaders don't have to know everything. They don't have to have all the answers. They just got to find the people who do. They've got to surround themselves with people that are smarter and better than them and be comfortable with that. The next thing you have to do is be curious. I heard a great quote, it's attributed to Andy Stanley. And it says, when leaders stop listening, their people have nothing to say. When leaders stop listening, their people have nothing to say. As leaders, we got to begin with curiosity. And don't miss this. Curiosity and judgment cannot exist in the same space. Curiosity and judgment cannot exist in the same space. In a more interactive presentation with more time, I'd ask you what the greatest listening skill is. Communication skill is actually what I'd ask you. I'd give them the answer away, right? And it's listening. Do we listen to respond? Do we listen to understand? Because most people, in a conversation, within 10 seconds of talking about a topic, make a judgment, and they're just waiting for their chance to respond, instead of being curious and listening to understand. All of us in our positions, we're the newest in our positions of anybody in the country, and we had to have this mindset of curiosity. Gratitude. How many here have ever been around somebody or worked for a boss, I'm not going to call them a leader because they're not, who you talk about the great work somebody's doing, they say that's their job. Hey, we need to have more recognition and appreciation. Why? Because they did their job? Are you kidding me? Appreciation is fuel for the soul. What we appreciate and recognize, we get. It is one of the most important skills of leadership. And this gratitude has to be spread throughout the entire leadership culture. We have to catch people doing things right. Tonight is all about gratitude. Tonight is all about recognizing people, businesses, volunteers who have stepped up and are making Byron great. And we can't miss that. And we got to lead by example. And we got to see challenges, opportunities. We got to bring positive energy to the table. And finally, we got to have courage. The clearer we are in our values, the clearer we are in our purpose, that gives us that courage. We got to have the courage to make tough decisions. We got to have the courage to have difficult conversations. I call them caring conversations because the goal is to help people reach their full potential. And if I don't have the conversation with you, how will you know that you're off track? And how can I help you? We've got to understand that there are consequences to doing nothing. As we built this team, this new team of people fully committed to Dixon, as they felt seen, heard, valued, accepted, supported, cared for, and appreciated for the first time in a long time, as they were empowered, as they were told, we don't care about mistakes, make them quick and let's move on. Let's fail forward. What came to follow is incredible. We've blown the 88 corridor wide open. Commercial and industrial. We've got a major announcement coming in the next 2 weeks there. We've done over 40% of our streets. In the first 3 months, taking on those major financial expenses, we saved $1 million a year that's been repeated every year for the city of Dixon. And we're about to embark on a major riverfront expansion. All this is happening, just like all the incredible things are happening here in Byron, because of the purpose-driven owners in this room. And they're happening in Dixon because of the purpose-driven owners on our leadership team. See, most people think leading is telling people what to do and always having to go first and always going out front. And I'll tell you, early on in my journey as city manager, I probably was leading 70 or 75% of the time. That was necessary as we addressed and attacked everything. But now, 6 years later, and it didn't take that long, I probably lead 10 to 15, maybe 20% of the time. Once we support, empower, enable our people, once there's clarity, the one thing we have to do that is so difficult for all of us is get out of our people's way. Get out of their way. And be there to support them. And be there to cheer them on. So those are the 5 mindsets that I want to challenge you to look at and say, how do I embrace those? How do I show up with those mindsets each and every day in my volunteer work in the community, my community leadership, my leadership at work, my informal leadership at work? And here are the 2 transformative leadership skills. And I'll just let you look when the statistics come up and how important they are. that I ask you to begin using tomorrow. These are 2 skills we can begin using tomorrow. The first one is coaching. What is the difference between training, mentoring, and coaching? What's training? Skills. When we train somebody, like we show them exactly what to do step by step, right? We go through the SOPs. It's showing somebody how to do something, teaching them something, a new skill. What's mentoring? Showing the way. Mentoring is going to be something that is more advice-driven. It might be more career-driven. Okay? So what's the difference between mentoring and coaching in the realm of leadership? Pardon me? You said something. Coaching is asking good questions and listening. Great leaders are great multipliers. Say it with me. Great leaders are great multipliers. Great leaders are great multipliers. And if people come into our office or walk up to us in the field and ask them a question, and we solve every challenge that faces them, are we a multiplier? We are not. And I understand that when we know the answer and it's quick to give, and we're busy, I understand that that's efficient. But is it really? Because we're not becoming multipliers. I like to use the example of a pizza, because it's something easy for us to see. If my team member comes into me and is having a problem with a specific piece of pepperoni on a slice of pizza, and I know how to solve that, and I tell them what to do, I have helped them solve that piece of pepperoni on that piece of pizza, and that's it. The next problem they have with a different piece of pepperoni, or the onion, or the sausage, or the bacon, they're coming right back to me. But if I think about what their challenge is, and I strategically think about the problem-solving skills that go into that, the outcome we're trying to achieve, and I use those things to ask good questions and bring the answers out of them. Not only when they walk away, having made that decision themselves, do they own that, but I've now taught them how to think and problem solve, and now they can solve that entire slice of pizza, maybe 2. And enough coaching session and enough investment in coaching, next thing you know, they can solve the whole pie. Next thing you know, you're leading 10 to 15% of the time. Second thing, appreciation. Who's ever read this book, The 5 Love Languages? I wish I'd have read it a lot earlier. A lot earlier. My love languages are words of affirmation and physical touch. And as human beings, we are so good at giving other people what they need if it's the same as what we need. But what about if my wife's love languages are quality time and acts of service? Let's face it, we suck at giving other people what they need when it's not what we need. We can't even understand it, right? Well, lucky for us, Chapman wrote a book, The 5 Languages of Appreciation at Work. And they're the same. We have to get to know and lead the whole person. We have to know how they receive appreciation. Our finance director doesn't need words of affirmation, right? That doesn't need the fist bump or the handshake or the pat on the back. Their language is quality time and acts of service. So if I want to maximize the value of appreciation, I have to understand what my team members individually need and intentionally give them what it is that they need. You can kind of look at that while I wrap up. The impacts of authentic leadership, high recognition, coaching, impact on team performance. Look at this return on assets, earnings per share growth, return on equity year after year. If you don't care about people and only like money, invest in your people and you will have more. You will have more. Take care of your people and they'll take care of the results. There will be a handout that comes out tomorrow that'll have all this in more depth on the 7 points of ownership, all right? Because I know this is quick. All right. This is something with all of our people and all of my partners in my consulting business that we start with. We're going to end with it today. The best way to predict the future is to create it. Leaders are predicting the future, are shaping communities and organizations each and every day. When we understand that life isn't about what happens to us, it's how we respond and how we take control of life, that's how you end up with a community like Byron. The quality of life, school district, Forest Reserve, the business community. Right? The kind of community you want to be, this close-knit community that really steps up and supports the new people that come, the new businesses that come, but especially when there's tragedy. It's a very special thing. But these things are created intentionally and they're created strategically. As we leave tonight, as I leave tonight, and you guys continue on, I want you to think about those 5 key leadership mindsets. Authenticity, humility, curiosity, gratitude, and courage. I want you to think about those 2 skills that we want you to practice. Like, try not to solve somebody's problem for them when you know it. Try coaching. See what happens. Use more appreciation. Catch our people doing things right. Because this research I showed is from last week. And the younger generations, this matters even more. I want to close with this quote from Jim Collins from his book, Good to Great. In his book, Good to Great, Jim Collins says, "The enemy of great is good. As long as we're willing to do a good job, we will never do a great job." So on behalf of your family, on behalf of your organization, on behalf of your community, on behalf of the people that you serve, never be satisfied with doing a good job. Always do a great job, and always be committed to excellence. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you.